Joining me now is Tom Perez. He's the senior advisor to President Joe Biden. Mr. Perez, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Well, as you know, several government agencies are working with state and local officials to assist in the response. We've learned that the Maryland Department of Transportation has requested $60 million right now for initial cleanup for the Key Bridge. What is the Biden administration doing right now to get the wheels in motion?
Oh, as the president said, we're moving heaven and earth to help our colleagues in Maryland, and the governor's been a great partner. So here's what we're doing. We have today arriving in Baltimore a heavy lift crane vessel, which the Army Corps of Engineers is spearheading that effort. We're also, the Coast Guard has been there since the beginning of this tragedy to help with the search and rescue. And now we are obviously in the search and recovery phase. So we're still, that search and recovery phase continues. And at the same time, again, we are preparing for the very, very challenging task of getting the debris removed and then moving a vessel that's basically the bow of the vessel is stuck in at the bottom of the Patapsco River. That's a 95,000 ton vessel, no mean feat. And so those are immediate priorities. At the same time, we recognize that there are going to be some jobs that are going to be temporarily lost because until we remove the debris and move the disabled vessel out of the way, ships can't come in. Baltimore's port is a major engine of the Maryland economy, not just the Baltimore County economy. And so we are working through our Labor Department to provide important help to those temporarily affected workers. So those are some of the things we're doing. And at the same time, we are planning for what we are going to do on the rebuild. And as the president said, we will be there for the state of Maryland. We are going to be a very, very key partner.
Mr. Perez, let's talk about the big picture, the long term, the rebuilding. Obviously, long-term funding will require congressional approval. Do you expect this to be a bipartisan effort?
I do, and I look to history for that. First of all, the Port of Baltimore and the Key Bridge, yes, they are Maryland assets, but they're national assets because the Port of Baltimore is a key part of our nation's economic engines. All of our ports, the West Coast, East Coast, Gulf Coast, are part of that economic engine that helps drive our supply chains across the country. And I'd note that in 2007, people may recall there was a tragic bridge collapse in Minnesota. And when a supplemental budget request was brought to the Congress to address that tragedy, it passed in the House of Representatives 421 to nothing. And so I'm confident that there will be similar bipartisan support here, and we are going to work promptly and already are working promptly with our partners in the congressional delegation and elsewhere to spec out, begin that process. What will the next Key Bridge look like, and how do we make sure that we can sufficiently fortify it?
And Mr. Perez, you talked about this a little bit earlier. Let's look a little bit, let's talk about it a little bit more in depth, you know, the economic impact of the Baltimore Bridge collapse. Could it hurt the local economy? Could it strain supply chains along with the deliveries? I mean, how's the federal government stepping in?
Well, the Port of Baltimore imports and exports more cars than any other port in America. So that's a big deal. So we are working with other ports, the East Coast, and other companies to address those sorts of disruptions. And one area around the port is still sufficiently functional so that we can help move some of the inventory that's there. But there will be undeniable short-term disruptions. But I'm confident that we can get up and running in a reasonable amount of time. And the Port of Baltimore is resilient. The workforce is resilient. The state of Maryland is resilient. And Joe Biden is bound and determined, as I've said, to move heaven and earth to make sure that this disruption is as temporary as possible.
All right, Tom Perez, Senior Advisor to President Joe Biden, thank you very much for joining us.